And boom, boom, boom. There he is. You're live on YouTube. So good morning, morning, everybody. Wow, Susie, good to see you, honey. And let me make sure I move this and mute that and open this and close that and all the things that I have to do. So good morning, Mickey and Michale and Karen here and Mickey, and we're here to read Forgiveness in Jesus, the meeting place of A Course in Miracles. And I suppose you guys want to pray in and get going. So I will turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone that's here. I see Dove, I see Mickey, I see Sharon, I see Susie and Bali, and of course Lynn and Karen and myself. And so, Karen, would you like to pray us in?
I would, but I'd rather have Susie sing us in if she would like to.
Oh, you look gorgeous this morning, Susie, or this evening.
This evening we just had dinner and I just came from the gym. So okay. But I don't need my face for anyway, I'm gonna sing. So I
Thank
invited
you.
their
Thank you.
eyes. Yeah, okay. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, for he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I am healed as I let him teach me to heal. And so it is.
Beautiful. Thank you, Susie.
Ooh,
Sharing.
wow.
Okay, so Karen, I have us on in the book Forgiveness in Jesus, the Meeting Place of A Course in Miracles and Christianity by Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. I have us ending, we're under the special hate relationships. And on my book, I have the 7th edition now. It's on page 27, but it's where it says familiar examples of this process. So is that where you and Lynn, is that what you have, or am I wrong?
No, I don't know. I just have
Okay.
where
Th-
I marked the book. So
Yeah,
let's see.
that's what I have, because we last week talked about the book of Leviticus and the high priest Aaron, and laying of the hands, and Yom Kippur and the scapegoat. So
Okay.
yeah, so it says familiar examples.
Okay. There we go.
All right. Karen, would you like me to start with the reading?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Familiar examples of this process abound in our everyday experience. The person who is chewed out by his boss and made to feel inferior and inadequate returns home in the evening and yells at his children, accusing them of the very faults found in himself. The baseball star who, after kicking out in a critical moment, returns to the bench and angrily kicks the water cooler in self disgust. The lazy student who did not study fails the final exam and rails at her teacher for giving such an unfair test. In the familiar story, when God confronts Adam and Eve with what they have done, Adam places the blame on Eve, who in turn transfers it to the serpent, and can put in parentheses Genesis 3:12 through 13. So that comes from the Bible. So I'll read the next paragraph too. Historically, we see the same dynamic in the lives of dictators who seek to compensate for their own perceived inadequacies by persecuting and even seeking to destroy those judged to be inferior. People who unconsciously believe they are damned have often sought to damn others, even in God's name. Finally, many imperialistic countries will justify their own actions by accusing other nations of doing the exact same thing, even forming alliances with other imperialist countries to strengthen their presumed anti-imperialistic position. Do you want me to go farther, Karen, or would you like me to stop here?
I mean, if no one has any comment, I would just keep going.
Okay. So this is going in from last week about the scapegoat. So that's why Ken also, it's always pointing the figure at somebody else, which the ego, your finger, which the ego wants you to do. It doesn't want you to look within. So Ken, that's why Ken is bringing this up on last week on the scapegoat and Aaron and about Leviticus and Yom Kippur. And this week we're going into Genesis, and where Adam places the blame on Eve, who Eve doesn't want to look within, or Adam doesn't want to look within. So she puts the blame on the serpent. So I'll go to the next paragraph. However, while the ego is telling us that anger and attack will rid us of our guilt, it silently has the last laugh, projection. While seeming to deliver us from guilt, in reality reinforces it. Placing guilt onto others in whatever form it takes must always involve attack. Somewhere inside us, the ego's words to the contrary. We know we are attacking falsely, for the true problem does not lie in others, but only in ourselves. And then Ken brings here a paragraph from the text. Yet projection will always hurt you. It reinforces your belief in your own split mind, and its only purpose is to keep the separation going. It is solely a device of the ego to make you feel different from your brothers and separated from them. And that's from the text 6, 2, 3, 1 through 3. While on one level, it is true that we are all affected by the world around us, it is also true that we are responsible for our own reactions to the world and to what happens to us. As the Course asks us to say to ourselves, and here's from the text, and then I'll stop here. I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. And that's from the text 21, 2, 2, 3 through 5. And it's, as Ken always tells us, it's an outside picture of an inner condition. So that is really so beautiful. It's like you've got the Holy Spirit there all the time if you step back, because you're the decision maker, and you ask for help. Because if you see what the ego is projecting and what you're perceiving in front of you, if it's an outside picture of an inward condition, you can correct it. It's a catalyst. It breaks it up. It's so beautiful that you can ask for help and you can step back and you can look. I mean, it's like you have a friend. You have a friend all the time with you. You got a friend in me, which that's a song too, I think from the 70s. So I see Karen's hand is up. So please go ahead, Karen.
You got a friend. I love that song. And yeah, I love this. And I agree with what you just said about, the outside picture of the inward condition is really recognizing that everything is a decision, that we can change our mind. And that is the greatest power that we were given. And just backing up a little bit, going into this, the projection and the guilt and the anger and, you know, how he talks about the true problem does not lie in others, but only in ourselves. And all of the projection and the blame is, as you said earlier, it's just because we don't want to look within. We don't want to see the guilt. We don't want to look. And by looking at it, that's how it's healed. And then all these incidents, where, the guy kicks the water cooler, then, the other guy, goes home and yells at his wife after he has a bad day at work. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. And it just keeps the separation going until it's healed. But it's really, it stems from the tiny mad idea where, you know, he says in that section right there that the secret of salvation is I am doing this to myself. So the Course continually tells us that, like, all attack is self attack. And it comes from a decision not to be what we are. So when we don't remember the truth, when we don't listen to that inner friend, that inner guide, and we listen to the raucous shrieks, it's also, he calls it the war against yourself. And both of those sections say the same thing, that, it teaches the Son of God that he is not himself and he is not his Father's son. So it teaches separation. And he tells us here that, this quote that he picked is so perfect. Yet projection will always hurt you. It reinforces your belief in your own split mind, and its only purpose is to keep the separation going. It's solely a device of the ego to make you feel different from your brother and separated. So it just keeps separation going by, saying that, you're the guilty one because I'm innocent, because I don't want to look. So I'm gonna blame you and project everything on you. So you're guilty, you're different, you're bad, I'm good. That's it. That's what it does. And it's so obvious now to me that I notice it, and I notice it in others too, but I don't. The thing with others is I don't try to correct a brother. I never try to correct a brother. I notice it, and the Course teaches us that we and Ken teaches us a lot, that we respect the power of decision for the mind to choose. So we all have that power of decision, which you were talking about earlier with the knowing that we can change our mind. So I'm just so grateful for this freedom. And then he talks about the I am responsible prayer, which is total responsibility, that I am responsible. I am the decision maker. I am the dreamer of the dream. And it's just, it's just freedom. That is the freedom that we're all experiencing here when we practice these principles. So I'm loving this. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, I love the way that Ken has written this, because he's taking us through it like a musical symphony. So he's really, it is like a symphony, because he brings up the projection, and then he brought up the scapegoat last week. Now he's bringing up about, like you talked about, the boss, and he'll come home and take it out, on his wife or his children, or in the book of Genesis, where, God, he confronts Adam, and then and then Adam puts the blame on Eve, who in turn transferred it to the serpent. So it's a continuous cycle. And I love how you brought, the projection up, and how Ken, he goes into the projection, right, of the ego, and then he brings it in to where you need to look within, where I am responsible for what I see from the text in chapter 21. So he really is taking you through like a musical symphony like a Bach or a Mozart or a Beethoven. And he really had, you can see his Ken's fine ear for listening. He really had that ability to listen. So thank you for your sharing, Karen. And would anyone else like to comment before Karen and I move on? No? Okay. Karen, would you like me to read then on the next paragraph? Okay. Our guilt, rather than being transferred to someone else, merely becomes strengthened as a result of our unfair attacks on another. This sets into motion a most vicious cycle of guilt attack. The guiltier we feel, the greater will be our need to deny and project it out by attack. The more we attack, the guiltier we will feel, and the cycle continues. This seemingly unending process is antithetical to the popular saying, "It is not love that makes the world go round, but guilt." This cycle of guilt and attack uncovers the ego's fundamental purpose, which it seeks always to conceal from us. The ego's plan for our quote salvation, end quote, is first to convince us of our guilt and then provide a means of escaping from it. Its true goal, however, is to retain guilt, for that alone sustains our belief in the ego, the symbol of the separation from God, which is the foundation of the ego's very existence. The ego's secret plan, quote, is what is responsible for the almost universal phenomena found throughout history, not to mention in the personal lives of practically everyone. The tremendous investment in anger, leading to the need for a we-they orientation, wherein someone must be found to fit the role of, quote, villain, which we then justify by our variable standards of morality. Herein lies the great attraction of prejudice and discrimination. It is the reason we join in large public outcries condemning those who commit certain crimes or judge public officials who are caught in illegal or unethical activities. In all these instances, we are really choosing to see and attack our unconscious sins in these scapegoats. Would you like me to end there, Karen?
I think that's a good place to stop and see if anyone would like to share.
I love how he's now bringing in anger in here. So he's bringing that within our symphony here, and it makes me think. I see Mickey's hands up, so I'll go to her in just a sec. But it makes me think of the television and how it how you can see so many people's projected anger then is justified. They justify in these mob type groups. So, yeah, it's a justification for the anger. And the ego takes you on this journey. It's almost like he's telling you it's the guilt. He's almost telling you, like, I've got a treasure chest and here's the map. But he's given you a wrong map because he doesn't, it's a wrong map and the treasure isn't there. And you're going on the course to this treasure with the wrong map. So I see Mickey's, and it's the guilt that lays hidden. I see Mickey's hand is up, so please go ahead, Mickey.
Oh, good grief. I couldn't figure out where I was. The what this reminded me of is Karen, remind me of the first part of the quote we always say about it's not my fault Oh,
Ken says it's the ego's twofold purpose. I exist and it's not my fault.
right. God, I could not get that into my brain what the first part was. Yeah, that's exactly what this is talking about. And just in blaming everybody else, in saying you're wrong and I'm right, and that the minute we engage in all these activities that it just talked about, how we condemn other people. I exist. It's not my fault. It's yours. And I think that's part of it goes along with it's not my fault automatically has the implied it's yours. And yeah, ego loves that stuff. Gets off on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, it's the scapegoat, and it doesn't want you to look at the guilt, and it takes you on a wrong course, and doesn't want you to look within. So, and it tells you all sorts of lies to make you think that you're gonna, by looking outside, by projecting outside, that's where you're gonna find it, but it doesn't. It won't take you within because it can't go there. The ego can't go there. So yeah, you have to look. You have to step back and look. And the fear is so great that that's why we have to take Jesus's hand or ask the Holy Spirit for help as we are the decision maker. So I see Karen's hand is up, and then I see Mickey's hand is up again. So I think Karen, were you first, and then Mickey? Please go ahead.
Yeah, the fear is so great because, an undisciplined mind thinks first with the ego and believes the ego is real. So, the whole idea of forgiveness is learning to look with the Holy Spirit, with that gentleness. And, the course talks throughout the course that, we waken gently, we waken slowly. It's a process. And once we learn to be gentle with ourselves, it's not as scary, because he doesn't, lift us up and hurl us into heaven, like, and all those other quotes that he talks about in the course. It's a very gentle, slow process. And the other thing, this cycle of guilt, this attack defense cycle is very prominent in lesson 135. If I defend myself, I am attacked. And in 136, sickness is a defense against the truth. In those two lessons, he talks about that attack defense cycle. And it's a cycle. And we continue it. We attack, defend, thinking that we need to defend something when there's nothing to defend. It's the ego that wants us to believe. And then with the ego's plan for our salvation to convince us of our guilt. And then, he provides us with the means by escaping because he doesn't want us to look. And that symbol of separation is the foundation of the ego's existence. So the ego's plan for salvation in the Course in Miracles is holding grievances. He tells us that in lessons 71 and 72, I think, talk about that. And, you know, all grievances, like I came to this conclusion because I've been working on anger for a long time. And anger and attack go hand in hand. They're basically synonymous in the course. And holding grievances is the same as where he talks about in the course that all anger is an attempt to make guilty. So I'm making you feel guilty because I'm holding a grievance against you because, as Mickey said, I exist and it's not my fault. It's your fault. I'm blaming you. So this anger is an attempt to make guilty. And it's holding those grievances because they stem out of believing that I've been hurt, believing that you can actually hurt me, And this takes a lot of looking and a lot of practice to recognize that it's never the other person. And that's what we're learning here. And I love this because it's very helpful to me because anger has been, like I said, something I've been working on. And now I look at that anger, and I was just talking about this the other day to a friend, and she was very, very angry. And I was so happy that she shared it with me. And she said, and she was acting almost like it was, she shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be angry. I'm like, no, the course doesn't tell us that we shouldn't be angry. The course never says don't be angry. It just says don't justify it. It's something that we look at. We just look at it, and that's the gentle process of forgiveness. And I just found it interesting that being a course student, she didn't know that. She really believed that she wasn't supposed to get angry. And I think that's where some course students get a little confused because we're not told that at all, you know, and we're not even told not to hold grievances. It's like we're just told not to justify them and to look at them and to recognize that it is not the other person. And I see Sharon's here, and Sharon, um, oh my God, Anthony Gold would say he would make it a three-step process. Ken would say, I exist and it's not my fault. And Anthony would say, I exist, I can suffer, and it's not my fault. So he would blame, you know, the ego would blame the person for the suffering as well. So it can get pretty deep when we start to believe that ego thought system. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, and I love where you said it's a gentle process, and so we all need to be gentle with ourselves and holding grievances. It does Anger does come from that, but it's also you have to release the judgment too, and we went over that in our kindness, the healing power of kindness and releasing judgment. So, you know, in before Mickey and Sharon, I see your hand up too. You know, when you had asked the question about Tara Singh when he had gone to Dr. Helen Schuchman and he said he was in a very bad place. That's where she was such a good therapist to him because he saw the world for all its cruelty, people taking other people's money, all of that. And so she helped to release that judgment. And so it's a process. And you know, you look out and you see how could God of you know this how could a kind God make this? This is cruel, you know, or create this, whichever the verbiage is for that. But that's where you know, Dr. Helen Schuchman came in and really worked as a therapist on releasing that judgment. And I see that with Ken and this book too. He really takes us through this book as a therapist, and that's the beauty of Ken. And so please, Mickey, go ahead, and then Sharon, and thank you so much for your sharing, Karen.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's those are all really good points. And the gentle leading of looking at this whole thing, the attack cycle, the blame and attack and innocence is stressed throughout this book and throughout the course. And those, you know, those are things we deal with on a regular basis, and they jump out at us really quickly. Oh, I'm angry, or oh, I want to blame this person. But the inverse of that is something that I have been looking at in myself lately is, and then where am I looking for approval? You know, it's really obvious when we're angry and we want to blame and the whole attack thing. Those are strong emotions that get our attention really quickly, but it's much more subtle when I'm looking at, oh, they liked me, or oh, they liked what I said, or oh, I'm looking for approval all the darn time, you know, like that. And that's just as insidious, and that's just as much a tool of the ego as anger and attack. So yeah, I'm getting down into the subtle stuff now, and it's just as scary for me. So thanks.
Thank you, Mickey, and thank you both. And Karen, I love how both of you brought up anger, and that's so important to look at it. And it's like it's can be a subtle attack. So thank you so much for your sharing. And Sharon, please go ahead.
This teaching is great. I mean, Gather has had the best teachers because even in my spare time, I listen to you guys. When I say even, I'm not always on here, but through the day when I want to listen, I listen. And I love what you shared, Karen, about the anger, because to shut someone down is actually giving them, the tendency to pretty much push it down. But and this is really coming from Ken's teachings, and then we all seem to be learning this, and it's happening perfectly because it's happening slowly. Because I have anger issues too. I have anger issues. I have, I can get. I'm a big crier. Now I don't have a problem with that. There's no way that I think that can, because I tend to feel things deeply. But what I've seen here, like this book and the way Michale's sharing and Mickey and Karen, you're just great teachers. And I love when you say to people, because that's really important to me, because I was a repressor, and we all are unconsciously. We really all are. But I repressed because, in the book it says anger's never justified. And we all know that as the Son of God. But in order to be able to look at it, the mighty companions that say, yes, feel that anger. That's the only way you transcend anything. So I just love that. I took off today because I ended up with a fibromyalgia flare, and I thought that was healed, but it's not. It went away for about 4 years, and now it's back. So, who knows why? Again, these are all because I still have ego, and even if I don't transcend the bodily issues, if my mind's at peace, that's all that matters. I no longer feel like I have to get rid of everything because it's really this one mind waking up. So the gentleness of God's Son is so important. And thanks, girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, the gentleness, and if I'm at peace. And we had brought up last week about Ken saying, I 2 lessons of the workbook. If you have that down, I am never upset for the reason I think, and I could see peace in this situation. I can see peace in this. And then Karen and I had brought up. Love Holds No Grievances, and then Tara Singh's book, Love Holds No Grievances, the ending of attack. So yes, I mean, if 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 you're peaceful, then you know that you're heading in the right direction. But if you're angry, then you're projecting, and it's the ego, and it doesn't want you to look within. So that's so true. And I see Karen's hand is up, so please go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Michale. And thank you, Sharon. I love that you shared that, it's just, being at peace is all that matters. It really is all that matters, being at peace with whatever's happening. And in chapter 6, this just came to me, chapter 6 in the introduction, in the very first paragraph, he talks about the relationship between anger and attack. And he says that the relationship of anger to attack is obvious, but the relationship of anger to fear is not always so apparent. Anger always involves projection of separation, which must ultimately be accepted as one's own responsibility rather than being blamed on others. Anger cannot occur unless you believe that you have been attacked and that your attack is justified in return and that you are in no way responsible for it. What can be expected from insane premises except an insane conclusion? The way to undo an insane conclusion is to consider the sanity of the premises on which it rests. You cannot be attacked. Attack has no justification, and you are responsible for what you believe. So it always comes down to what you believe. Which teacher am I believing in right now? Decisions come from beliefs. So, what am I believing right now? Am I believing the ego story? That's the key for me because I did for years and I don't believe it anymore. That's the freedom to not believe it, because once we believe these insane voices, it will definitely drive you insane. So I love this because it's really, really showing us how the ego thought system works, but it's also reminding us that you cannot be attacked because it has no justification. You are responsible for what you believe. We take responsibility for the decision-making mind and which teacher we choose. And that's what the whole course is teaching us, to bring the awareness back to the mind so we can make another choice, choose again, and there we are. We're back at peace. I mean, it's not always easy, but it's that simple. So I'm just grateful for that knowledge today. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, he Ken takes us to back to always to look within, and that it's an outside picture again of an inner condition. So it is, I mean, in a certain way, you are your own therapist with the help of the Holy Spirit, because what you see when you're looking, it's an outside picture, so you can correct it. So you can just look at it, take the eraser and correct it. It's not written in pen, it's written in pencil. So that way you can erase it with the help of the Holy Spirit, or taking Jesus's hand. So thank you. And thank you, Sharon, for mentioning that it's a process, and about the anger. And when I realize when I'm noticing those angry emotions are coming up, that I'm projecting that, it's, I realize too that I'm judging it. I had to judge something, like if I walk in a room and I see that person, and it's my belief about that person is the past. So I've already judged that person, and I really have then not given that person a fair chance, because I've been projecting. So by stepping back and looking as the decision maker and asking for help, I can perceive this differently. So thank you all so much. And I see Karen's hand is up again. So please go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, thank you for bringing judgment up again. And the course does say that it's all judgment against ourselves. It all comes back to the secret of salvation. So every single judgment that we make is a judgment against ourselves, and that's where it's projected out. So that's a really good reminder for me to recognize that it's only a judgment against myself, and then I'm projecting it on, because there is no other. So for me, remembering that, and I also I was just thinking about what Mickey shared about, looking for approval. And I thought about that song, looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for approval in all the wrong places, but it's just looking with, again, the Holy Spirit, and coming from that place of love, and just answering that call of love with love, call for love with love, is the answer to everything. And that's what I've been working out in my special relationships, especially with my daughter. She has severe ADHD, and she's been struggling because she doesn't have her medication. And part of the reason she doesn't have her medication is because she has severe ADHD and she can't keep appointments. And it's really a vicious cycle for her right now. And she just needed to talk. And I gave her some really good advice on what to do and some steps. Like when someone has ADHD, Sharon, you might recognize this, that sometimes they just need instructions, simple instructions on what to do because they just can't think straight. So I just gave her simple instructions on what to do and how to remember for appointments. Put a calendar in every room and put the dates, da da da. I gave her all these different things and put it on your phone and she because she couldn't think straight, and so I gave her the love. And because she called herself stupid, I said, "You're not stupid. You're just not on your medication, and that's what you need right now. This is like severe, and you have a baby to take care of. It's hard." So the love that I extended to her was so helpful to her. And it was thoughts that she never thought to do, like instructions. It was that simple. And that's the Holy Spirit working through me, seeing only love where I call for love. And it's just working that in every situation in my life, but especially in my special relationships, I notice it all the time. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. And I see Sharon's hand is up, but that's so beautiful that you see that about your daughter, and that she just needs some instruction. And you're bringing actually the course into application. What is the most loving thing to do? And that's what Ken always talks about. And so how you were with your daughter is actually bringing the course into application, and that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a kind actually mother you are to your daughter. Thank you. Sharon, please go ahead, and then Susie and Bali.
I was going to say the same thing, Michele, that she's so kind. I mean, I have, neurodivergent. Neurodivergent people tend to be very creative too. So there's a gift there that your daughter has, and that's what I'm looking at. But I am stupid is something I felt all my life. And here I went to college, I had my own art school, but that that belief, because it takes me so long, in this world, if you're neurodivergent, they don't really understand it still. So when you have a mom like you, Karen, you're giving her the safety she needs and the acceptance, because back in the days that I had all this, my mother was very compassionate, but then she would get very mean too. And here's the thing, she had no choice. She didn't even understand the ego. But the fact that we are given this gift from A Course in Miracles to just be there and love, your daughter is so fortunate, and she will always know that she's loved and accepted, and also that she's just as smart as everybody else. It's a different way of learning. That's all it is. And she'll achieve what she needs to achieve. But again, just like my son, she's had another illness with that, and that'll make it even worse. So just the compassion. Just love you, Karen. You're the best. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you, Sharon. That's beautiful. And I love that how you mentioned that on kindness. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Susie and Bobby, please go.
But before Susie, I just wanted to thank you, Sharon. And I just want to ask you real quick, what did you say you have neurodivergent? What is that?
Okay, she's neurodivergent. That's the new diagnosis. That what neurodivergent means, you don't have a brain like the majority. But there's so many people that have this right now. Now she might have another one too. I don't know if she has the auto processing too, because that makes it a little harder. But for me, it was always comprehension, scattered thinking, forgetting, all of that. And then, of course, with that stroke, it did an impact on my brain. So, what I think you should bring up, there's a book I have on Kindle, Neurodivergent. And I'll bet Susie has something to share on that, because she's always adding.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I was the first gifted learning disabled teacher in Vancouver, and that's because my daughter's gifted ADHD, and I was fortunate enough to put her into a special school for people who are who have high funk. They were for dyslexia. The woman, whatever that movie was she was dyslexic, and it was Julia Roberts, but she helped finance the school that my daughter went to. And now Daniel Amen is a brain specialist, and he studies the brain. And he came to our school, my daughter's school, to speak. And I'll never forget, because the first thing he said is, anybody sitting in the audience wearing glasses, take them off. Now read the board. Actually, it's weird because I'm not used to staring at, there we go. There we go. Hi. So he said, take your glasses off. Now read the board. Come on, try. Try really hard to read the board. Why not? Why can't you? If you try really hard without your glasses on, you should read the board. That's what ADHD is. We don't ask people who need reading glasses to try to see. We don't ask people we don't ask people who wear hearing aids to try to hear. We don't, and he really looked at it a different way. Now, funny thing about being neurodivergent is that I found out after my mother died, I didn't speak until I was 4 years old. They thought I was autistic and never speak. And then my mother put me into university when I was 14, which is never a good thing to do. So I know that but I didn't know that I didn't speak until after she died I found out last year. She sent me a letter that I received after she died. But so I have a great understanding of this neurodivergent because for the first 4 years of my life, I listened and looked around and listened. I understood everything, but they thought I didn't. My medical file said I never speak. But children learn in there's 9 different ways of learning, but they only teach 3, and they try to push 5, but they only teach 3 at school. And the problem is, because I'm a teacher, the problem is when you go to teacher training and then you go when you're a student teacher, that the teacher that you're working under, they're the ones, you need that letter from them. That letter is going to get you a job. Well, that teacher has been teaching an old style. So you're going to learn that teacher's style to get your good letter. So it doesn't matter that they teach you 9 ways of learning. The whole neurodivergent thing basically means if you're not in one of these 3, it does, that's what it is. But the reality is, it's just like it's just insane. I always go like, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, children. Like, there's no difference. There's no different. Like, you would never tell someone who needs glasses, take them off and see. But then then people who have ADHD are expected to focus. It's just, you can't see it. It's not the same thing, but there's no difference. So I just wanted to share that. That's all. I didn't really have it. I was just listening. And I was actually, when I was in my teacher training, the day that they taught the the day they taught ADHD, it was wrong and I had to speak up. And then the next day over the loudspeaker in the teacher training building, which I'd never heard before, was paging Susan Braverman to the office. And it was like, oh my God, I could still get the goosebumps. They asked me to teach that in all the classes. They asked me to teach ADHD because it's about reaching them. Like, again, I always think of the thing, take your glasses off, hey, and see, try real hard and you'll see, same kind of thing. That's what ADHD is. It's just you don't have your glasses on and the anxiety and everything that it causes. Okay, thanks for listening.
That was really helpful, Susie. Thank you
Well, I'm
so
glad.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad I've reconnected online because, as Lynn knows, I went through what would have been called in the world a horrific experience, but it removed all the barriers to love within me. I had no choice but to let go of everything, and what was left was light and love. And so I I remember listening to Byron Katie years ago. I'm like, I want to be like Byron Katie, except for the fact that I don't know, like I'm listening and I don't know how to connect with people anymore because I just like to be. I just like to be. And so it's just really nice to be with it's just nice to be with people who I know or know of. And so I've already got a rapport. Today I met a Dakini in Australia, introduced me to this course student and Ubud. And when I made that, when we're chatting and I said, oh my God, what's happening in the States? And she goes, we don't attack. And so it's like, okay, I'm not it's like I love listening to you, Sharon, because you're just real. You're just real. And I feel comfortable, but I want to be comfortable with everybody. And so I thought this would be the right place to start. I thought it'd be a nice place to start. So thank you. Thanks.
This is your home, Susie. I don't know where else you would go.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, it did really scare me today when because we finally connected, and she's 7 years old and she's from the States. I thought she was from Australia, but she's from the States. I'm going to look after her luggage, and she's down here in Sonora right now, and she's going to do a visa run, and we're just chatting, and suddenly it's because I'm like, oh, you're American. Oh my God, look at what's happening in the States. And she just go, we do not attack. And it's like, oh, okay, okay. And I just know now that that has nothing to do with me, to just be present. But that's all I seem to know how to do is be present.
You're funny.
So,
Oh
but
man,
I love
love
her
you.
book.
All right. Let's see. Oh, we still have a few minutes before. I don't even see Carrie. Oh, there's Carrie in the Pal Talk room. Okay, I'll let go of the mic.
Okay, that was beautiful, Susie. Thank you so much. So, Karen, do you want me to read the next chapter? Because we have about 6 minutes, and then I could do the poem from Dr. Helen Schuckman on page 64 called Transformation that Ken wrote about in yesterday's workbook lesson. Or,
Sure. Yeah, one more paragraph, I guess.
okay, all right. The same need to divide the world into black and white is what underlies the sense of relief, joy, and triumph when we watch a movie where in the end the good guys, quote, win and the bad guys, quote, lose. It is always behind the tremendous over identification we make with sports heroes, movie stars, or world and spiritual leaders, opposing them to their corresponding villains. It should be stated that while people obviously do not always do things they should, and others justifiably deserve our admiration, the focus here is on our need to see them that way, not the people in and of themselves. The 1980 Winter Olympics provided Americans with a clear example of this process of identification. People who had no interest in hockey and probably could not tell a puck from a basketball, a blue line from a red line, became instant enthusiasts as the newspapers reported the United States underdogs defeating the heavily favored Russian hockey team. Whether they were conscious of this or not, most Americans experience this as good triumphing over evil. So that was interesting how now Ken goes into using the word identifying. And so he shares here about the 1980 Winter Olympics and how people that weren't even interested in hockey became interested in it. They identified with the triumphing over evil. So that was really interesting. Would anyone like to share on this and identification that Ken is bringing up?
I don't have my hand up, but I would like to share.
Please go.
'Cause, yeah, this was a big deal, and this whole miracle of overcoming the Russian team with our little American team. And there's a movie about it, which is pretty dramatic. But but the reality of it is, yes, this is why when we live in small circles, we do not experience the connection with those in other circles. So this is why it's so important and essential for me as a course student to expand my circle, that's why we have all these lessons that say, look at this person, and then see the light in them, and then the light expands and comes in, and then the light, you are in the light, and all that business, all this visioning and stuff that we go through, because when we connect with those of other that seem to be our enemies, and we connect with them uh, in a loving kind of way, or any kind of way, really, even business or social or whatever kind of way, religious, spiritual, we expand and expand and expand, then that becomes our community, and we're not restricted to the community of, Colorado or America or Canada or Bali or whatever. We actually have our experience with expanding to all these other places and all these other people, and it makes it less likely and we will see those people as our enemy. Like if you went and lived in Russia for a year, more than likely, if you lived as a regular person, interacting with other people, having, going to the store, having coffee, whatever business, whatever, you it's less likely you're going to look at Russia as an enemy because they're a part of you. You become a part of them. And so what's happened in America, and what is attempting to happen in America, is closing up those circles and making it, I'm American, this is my, and there are a lot of people that are in that mode, that are then looking at anything that appears outside as this enemy. So, but that expansion, and of course, then, hockey blossomed in America then. And even though we already had hockey teams professionally, uh, people became more interested in it, and we got expansion teams, and now, I mean, my family is big time hockey family. We love hockey, and everywhere we go, we go to the locals and all that kind of stuff because hockey is an awesome game. It's actually the only game that I follow at all. So, that says something for sure. But again, hockey now has expanded us so that, we just recently had like international hockey competitions, and we see it on the Olympics, and so that is something that really expanded us. Uh, I mean, it's interesting that Ken brought this up, talking about, that we wouldn't know if we didn't know, but the reality of it is, this is something that's broadened Americans to something that's global. Soccer. This year, soccer came in and got to be a big deal here in America. And so a lot of Americans now are following soccer, throughout the world. That's a huge sport that brings out many, many people and lots of enthusiasm and lots of connection. So I guess all I'm saying is the more connections that we have throughout, the globe, the more likely we are to see them as friends instead of enemies, and have more I don't know, more loving relationships. Anyway, and I know we're taking Carrie's time. I'm sure he doesn't care. Uh, if he does, he'll say something.
Thank
Uh,
you, Glenn. I love how you brought that up in the connections, and how Ken brought up identification. And it's also, kind of a form of adaptation, because the species adapts. So when you identify, then you adapt towards that environment. So it starts to change. So it's also a form, identification goes into adaptation too. So I see Karen's hand is up. Please go. And then Susie and Bali, because we are 2 minutes over the hour. And then I'd like to do the prayer, the poem, if that's okay with you all. Thank you. Karen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. I love what you shared. And this paragraph sums up for me what Ken's talking about with the special hate and the special love. Our need, he says, it's our need to see them that way. So we're seeing either the good guys or the bad guys. And like Lynn was saying, we're seeing either, as our friends, which are the same, or our enemies, which are different. And this is where the quote Ken picked was so perfect, that all projection will hurt you. It reinforces your belief in your own split mind, and its only purpose is to keep the separation going. It's solely a device of the ego to make you feel different. So it's all about that, and it's noticing that, And so this is a beautiful paragraph on the special hate, special a representation of the special hate, special love, and adding with everything that Lynn shared and that Michale just shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for your sharing. Beautiful. And Lynn's. And Susie and Bali, please go ahead.
Thanks. I'll try to be quick. I was thinking about what Lynn was talking about when she was talking about like the view on Russians. If you lived in Russia, what would it be like? Well, what people in the United States and Canada don't know, and I didn't know, is that the Balinese COVID almost destroyed the entire economy, and Russia saved it. Russia came in here, and yes, although there's a lot of areas now that might be called Little Moscow instead of Chengdu, the Russians came in here, they fled Russia, and they saved Bali. And they have a gruffness to them, which I didn't really fully understand at first because I just gave it a quick judgment because there's those Russians, they're so rude, they don't talk. Well, no, they were ashamed with them. It's like we're seeing history repeat itself, just like the Germans after World War II. It was something that was not, Holocaust was not discussed. And so it's kept suppressed. Just like if you suppress your guilt, it's going to stay there. But but it's the same thing like with the Russians. There are these beautiful people who have suppressed the guilt of what they did not do. But Russia saved Bali. So that's something that you wouldn't know on the other side of the world. So that's why I just wanted to share that.
Wow. Thank you, Susie. That is wonderful. I didn't know that. And that's a beautiful sharing. And that goes in line with what we're reading about the hockey team and what Lynn brought up and Karen had brought up and Mickey and, about the triumph over evil. So, people become interested. So now some people could think, oh, the Russians are bad, but they saved Bali. So now they're our friends, they're our heroes. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Susie. I really appreciate that. I don't see anybody else's hand, and we're 5 minutes over the hour. So Karen and Lynn, if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and read Dr. Helen Schuckman's poem on transformation.
You don't have to ask if it's okay anymore. It's perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Transformation. It happens suddenly. There is a voice that speaks one word and everything is changed. You understand an ancient parable that seemed to be obscure, and yet it meant exactly what it said. The trivial enlarge in magnitude, while what seemed large resumes the littleness that is its due. The dim grow bright, and what was bright before flickers and fades, and finally is gone. All things assume the role that was assigned before time was, in ancient harmony, that sings of heaven in compelling tones, which wipe away the doubting and the care. All other roles convey, for certainty must be of God. It happens suddenly, and all things change. The rhythm of the world shifts into concert. What was harsh before and seemed to speak of death now sings of life and joins the chorus to eternity. Eyes that were blind begin to see, and ears long deaf to melody begin to hear. Into the sudden stillness is reborn the ancient singing of creation song, long silenced but remembered. By the tomb, the angel stands in shining hopefulness to give salvation's message. Quote, be you free and stay not here. Go on to Galilee. End quote. Transformation, the Gifts of God, page 64, Dr. Helen Schuckman. Thank you all. And this is also in this particular poem, that transformation Ken has it written in his journey through the workbook on lesson 94. I am as God created me. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. I love you all and so appreciate you. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We'll be back here in what, an hour and a half? What for Joel Goldsmith. So let me look here real quick at my
Isn't
schedule.
Terry coming on?
Yeah, he's on Pal Talk. So
Okay. Yeah, good.
11:30 Eastern we'll be on here with oh, and Cindy Trope maybe will be here at 10:30. We're gonna look for Cindy to come in at 10:30.
Oh,
Uh,
good. Okay. That's wonderful.
so well, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. All right.
I know, but
Love
I
you guys.
still love her so much. She's wonderful.